Welcome, everyone. It's Dr. Linda. We're going to be looking at the anatomy of the spinal cord here. So here is a torso and looks like some of the skin and musculature has been dissected away to kind of give us a little bit of an orientation of what we have here. We'll see if we could zoom in a little bit on this. So in the neck, we have 8 pairs of cervical nerves, right? C1 to C8. Yes, there's only 7 cervical vertebrae, but the first pair of cervical nerve roots exit between the occiput, which is the skull, and the C1 vertebrae, also known as the atlas. Then we have what we call a cervical enlargement, which is this widening and dilated portion of the spinal cord. And that's because in the neck, there are going to be 2 plexi, right? There's the cervical plexus and the brachial plexus. When we go over flat Stanley, which is another model, we'll go over some of these larger nerves that come off the neck that go down to the fingers. Okay, when we go inferior just a little bit, we'll see the outer layer, the outer meninge called the dura mater. And then if we zoom in, we'll see the layer that's pink that's just adjacent to it a little bit deeper called the arachnoid or the arachnoid mater. In the thoracic region, we have intercostal nerves. There's no plexus that's in the thoracic spine, right? In the neck, we have the cervical plexus and brachial plexus. And in the lower back, we have the lumbar plexus and sacral plexus. But in the thoracic region, there are no plexus. There's no plexi. It's only the intercostal nerves. And again, there's 12 pairs. Okay, now off to the right here, we can see the L1 and L2 vertebrae. And right where the L1 and L2 interspace is, right? Interspace, meaning between those 2 vertebrae, this is where the spinal cord ends, right? Many people think the spinal cord goes all the way down to the bottom, but it doesn't. The spinal cord actually ends at the L1, L2 interspace, and where it cones off is called the conus medullaris. The conus medullaris is where it kind of looks like a cone at the bottom, like an ice cream cone right there. And then what we have inferior to that, it's still yellow. That's why many people think it's the spinal cord, but they're really lumbar and sacral nerves. It's a region called the cauda equina. Cauda equina really means horse's tail. This really looks like the tail of a horse. Cauda equina. If we zoom in, we can see the L1 and L2 vertebrae. We can see the conus medullaris right here, which is the ending of the spinal cord. And then the letter C, as we go straight down and we follow that filament right down, all the way down to the bottom, it kind of anchors right down to the coccyx. That's called the filum terminale. The filum terminale really is that center line that anchors itself all the way down to the coccyx. And then we see the cauda equina, which is the horse's tail. In the neck, we can see the cervical enlargement. And these right here are cervical nerves, right? They just come off of the spinal cord. Many of them go down the shoulder and they go down into the arm, into the fingers. Here's the number 17, the blue is the dura mater. That's the most superficial meninge. Just deep to it, number 16 is the arachnoid mater. Okay, that's the middle meninge. Now, when we look at a cross section, we'll be able to see even the pia mater, which is the internal layer. So now we're looking at a cross section of the spinal cord. In fact, I will start this as a separate video. We'll call it cross section of the spinal